outside of running Giant, I also, managed Cardi B, Offset, and, depending on that, I mean, Cardi probably takes up most of the time, but it's been 6 years since she's put on an album, and my main focus is to get her to put out another album.
Hi, it's Vanessa Satin, editor-in-chief of XXL, with a new episode of Inside Track. I'm sitting with Courtney. I don't do intros, Lori, and then we have Shawn Tubby Holiday, who is our special guest today. He is the co-founder of Giant Music, and Courtney wants to do the first question.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you for coming on. You were one of our first people that we ever wanted to target for this, so thank you for taking the time and
scheduling.
Of course.
Absolutely. So you have a very illustrious career. Tell us how you got into the game.
I got into the game. That's the easy.
Yeah,
Such an easy first. No wonder you wanted to do the question. The first question.
We'll progress.
I would have hit him with, so when's the Cardi album coming out? No, sorry. Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
My first entry point was I did street team for Bad Boy while I was in college, and I was a college rep. Went to Florida A&M, and I got that job because Cypher was a good friend of mine growing up. DJ Cypher, he was Little Kim's DJ, so I would be around him and Super Mario and a lot of the street team guys from Bad Boy. So that's, I just wanted to work for free.
Where are you from?
From Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Crown
okay.
Heights.
There you go. Brooklyn, stand up.
We did Queens today. We had Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Wasn't the guests from the Bronx? We're covering all the boroughs today.
All the boroughs today. All right, so after the Bad Boy Street Team, then where did you progress to?
Then I stumbled into publishing, so I ended up going to work with Big John at EMI Publishing. And how I got that job, I was managing this producer, E. Poppy, out of Houston, and I had made a relationship with Matthew, Beyonce's dad.
Yeah.
And he produced, I remember Matthew was like, yo, I need tracks for Beyonce. We were working on a solo album. I came with a beat pack. We never heard back from him for a month later. Then he goes, hey, I need the files.
Yeah.
And I said, to which song? And then that song ended up being Dangerously in Love.
I was going to ask, wow.
I got this. So when he sent me the song back, I called Big John and said, hey, I got a placement on Beyonce. And I don't think he believed me because he was like, well, is she holding it or is it really her? I said, well, it's her vocals. So he well, come to my office, be here by 4 o'clock. So me and E. Poppy went to his office, played him the song. It was Dangerously in Love, and that ended up being her title track. Solo album. So we did a pub deal, and E. Poppy, he signed E. Poppy, and I would be there every day in the tape room, like sending out, because this is before they had MP3s.
Yeah.
We were sending out CDs. So I would be there sending CDs in the mail room, and Jody like, who's this guy in our mail room every day? And then they ended up hiring me at EMI, and that was that's how I got to EMI Publishing.
Wow, so that was your first kind of
job with a corporate
job at a corporation.
Yep, yeah.
Gotcha, because you also come from the label system as well too.
Not until then. So that was my first publishing job. Then I got into A&R after that. So after that, I went to go work for Hitco when LA had the first Hitco when it was in Atlanta. And Shakir was my best friend, so Shakir brought me to Hitco, and then that's how he got the job at Def Jam, because Shakir was running Hitco. Shakir Stewart.
Yes.
Rest in peace. But Shakir was working for Hitco, and LA wouldn't hire him unless he found a replacement for Hitco. And then that's how I got the job at Hitco, and then Shakir went to do Def Jam full time.
Gotcha. Now, during this time, who were some of the artists during that time at your tenure at Hitco?
Sierra.
Okay.
So Sierra was one of the first ones I did at Hitco.
Nice.
When she put out Goodies. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And I knew I got the internet because Shakir signed to the Arista. So that was a layup.
So it's your first, or we're very big first. Beyonce, Dangerously in Love, Sierra, Goodies. Was that just kind of luck, or how did that happen?
Well, it was like the relationships. Like Shakir was plugged in with Beyonce, so he signed her to Hitco. Actually,
Gotcha.
So she was signed to Hitco as a solo writer early on. So that's how I ended up having a relationship with Matthew. So it ended up working out through relationships.
Got you.
Interesting. I didn't know all the background there. Okay, so you ended up at Interscope, right?
Yeah. So then after Hitco, I got a call from Jimmy and saying we need somebody to come at
Jimmy
Iovine to come to Interscope. And I didn't think that I was ready for that because I love publishing. That publishing was my first love. But I did 3 meetings with Jimmy, and then when he said it was doubling my salary, I had my daughter. I can't have a daughter at the time. I'm like, dude, I got to take this opportunity. And LA was supportive of it. And he was like, you know what? I can't tell you no. Yeah. Jimmy and Doug are very close. Doug Morris hired LA from their gym, so LA gave me his blessings to go work at Interscope.
Wow. And so how many years at Interscope?
So I was there from like 2003 to 2011.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's a long time.
And then I went to Sony.
So you came in for the aftermath. M's already hot. 50 comes in. All of that kind of run.
Right during the 50 game, Keisha Cole. But it was like my job was to oversee that urban roster, and at the time, it started out good, but then it got ugly at the end. Like Game and 50 were beefing. Keisha Cole wasn't doing an album. Like, so I could tell Jimmy was like over the urban roster at this time, and then he was into like Black Eyed Peas and Lady Gaga was having one, and then all the urban acts was kind of like letting him down. So,
but they came back strong for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, not Game, but yeah.
Not Game, but yeah. So how hard is it to work in a label when the artists aren't getting along? I mean, you're having a volatile situation.
Well,
and what do you guys do? You know, a lot of people blame the label. A lot of people what the label does to clean it up. And, I mean...
Well, there was a time where the artists loved coming to Interscope. Like, they would come, like 50 would come, hang out on the 4th floor, the 3rd floor. They'll talk to radio. They'll talk to marketing. We really could strategize. But then it got to the point where these artists started hating the labels. And they feel like, you know what, they're just off to the next artist. Like, if you're like, every artist, they're going to get a cold time. Like, you know, they're not hot all the time. So these artists, like, well, they start feeling like the label's letting them down. Like, they're just chasing the next hot artist that comes around. And you could tell. And that's what I started not liking about the major labels. And
so that was kind of true.
Yeah.
It's we spoke with someone else who had a similar perspective on label culture and artists coming in. At one point in time, you know, you would, any given day, you know, you never knew who you would see, you know, in the halls. And, you know, as the years went on, you know, artists
emptied out.
Yeah, they started to deter away. So did you kind of see and experience the same thing?
Yeah, you can see.
What do you think that's attributed to?
I think the volume, like labels they'll sign one artist this week, then they'll chase another artist next week without really taking the time with the first artist that they should be developing. And then you could tell there's no more artist development. The labels expect that the artist and the artist management team to figure it out, you know, and just handing. But back in the days, we like the labels, the marketing person, we'll meet with the A&R, the A&R will meet with the radio team, and we really were strategizing how to roll out a song to a project. It was starting to be no more of that. It's just like, you know what, come with the full package, and if it works, it sticks, and if it doesn't, your first single doesn't work, then they either shelf you and then wait till you figure it out. Back in the day, if the first single didn't work, we'll help them with the second single. Like, let's try to really put something together. So.
And so after Interscope, you were also courted by Sony.
So how we got to Sony was Jimmy Iovine knew Doug Morris was going to Sony. So Jimmy he set up a dinner with me, him, and Doug Morris, and told Doug, "You need to bring Tubby to Sony." And then at the time, I didn't know that Jimmy was really just trying to like position me to go to Sony with Doug. I thought I kind of wanted to stay at Interscope, but he like gave me an out at Interscope and got me over there at Sony.
Nice.
So,
how'd you get the nickname Tubby? It's
so growing up, my favorite cartoon was Teletubbies, and I was also overweight. And my nickname always growing up was like Tubby, and it just stuck with me. Only person that I call me my mom, but yeah, everyone else understand.
All right, so you're at Sony Columbia. You have a run there. Artists, what was proud moments over there?
So Columbia at the time, Rob Stringer and Ashley Newton were running Columbia, and they wasn't really into urban music. They was into Chainsmokers and Daft Punk. And every time I was trying to sign Urban Act, I could tell you they just wasn't into it. And that's kind of like how I got one foot into management, because I'm like, you couldn't sign anything at Columbia. They didn't, at that time, they just wasn't into it. But then when Ron Perry came, he was really into the culture.
It switched her.
He gave me the role with Felicia, the co-head of the urban department. And then I also was doing a Sony TV, so I had a dual role. So I had the dual role at the publishing company and at Columbia. And then that's when I think I was starting to hit a better stride, because I could sign artists to pub deals, like Polo G. I signed him to Columbia and his publishing deal. Nice. Travis Scott, I was able to sign him to his publishing deal and then get to work on his album. So it was the best of both worlds, really.
Nice. And then obviously from there we transitioned to now, Giant Music.
So that came about during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, Irving Azoff was meeting with Tim Cook and Eddie Q a lot from Apple, and him and Jeffrey was like, we should just start our own label. Like, these majors are just middlemen at this point. Like, they just use the Spotify and Apple relationships to leverage other artists, but they're just middlemen at this time. If we can go directly with the artists and build our own label, you know, we can compete with the majors. So I didn't think twice. When he said it, I said, let's do it. And we were trying to think of a name, and I figured I went the name Giant because I felt like that was a legendary name. But they had other names that we weren't going to use. Yeah.
So under Giant Music, is that just label services? Is it management? Is it both? Kind of, how do we
So no, management is separate. So the management company is called Full Stop, that Jeffrey runs. Giant is separate from, it's just all under the Azoff umbrella, but Giant is separate from the management. But we do have label services. Like, we hired Matt Lamont, who's our managing director. I used to work with him at Interscope. And then Nate Albert used to work at Warner, and he's now president of Giant. And then we have our own digital person. We outsource radio for promotions, but everything else is really in-house. We have our own business affairs team. So we run it like a major label, you know. But we don't act like a major label because we don't sign every artist. We don't chase TikTok. We don't chase who's going up on YouTube. Like, we really want to go back to artist development. Like, that's kind of like the Cash Cobain story. Yeah. Like how we discovered Cash almost...
Cash Cobain?
Cash Cobain, who's from the Bronx. He didn't have nothing going on Spotify, nothing on TikTok, but Daniel played it for me, and I liked his sound. So I met with him, his management team, his parents, and he had nothing going on, no streaming history or anything. And we kind of like worked hands-on with him, developed him. He got really good relationships with Travis Scott, Drake, and he was starting getting the culture. Then his first project, dead on arrival. Nothing. It was like, it was a brick. So, like, I told him it's okay. You're gonna figure it out, and we stuck with him.
That's right.
Now, if that was any other major label, I probably would have dropped him or shelved him. And what I like what Giant did, like, we supported him and like followed his dream. And now look at him. He's one of the hottest up and coming rappers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the general theme, Courtney, right? Because we're in most of the conversations, is that the labels are crumbling. You know, that and you know, kind of want to say that to a degree, or maybe I don't want to. But the more you sit down with everyone here, that's the feel of the conversation. Is that the feel from somebody on the other side of the labels who used to be with them? That the concept of those big mammoth buildings that ran everything is no more?
It's like you see a lot of the majors are downsizing. Like, look at the layoffs that just happened at Atlantic. The layoffs that happened at Universal. Like, you know, and these are people who really good executives that are losing their jobs, and it's, you know, it's not really their fault, but it's the nature of the business now. So I think it's going to be a rise in independent labels now, and as these majors are going to be getting smaller and smaller.
Does it change the definition of independent at all when you have people who are experts in the field coming in and taking kind of that lane? So they've come from the majors, they're now going into more of an independent thing. The kind of maybe traditional idea of what independent is changing a little bit, or no?
I think the independents are going to use some stuff that they learned from the majors, but then also learn the mistakes that the majors were doing, and then to not make those mistakes at the independents. So that's what I think.
What's your day-to-day like?
Depending on the day. So I have a duo. So also, outside of running Giant, I also, you know, manage Cardi B. Offset, and depending on that, I mean, Cardi probably takes up most of the time, but it's been 6 years since she's put on an album, and my main focus is to get her to put out another album, and I think we're gonna get there. She wants to put on an album. She knows it. She's I think sometimes she's second guessing herself, but the music is there. She just gotta But then she also loves Fashion Week in Paris. So so every time she does something in fashion, it takes her out of the studio.
Yeah.
So, but it's coming.
So you mentioned that you manage both her and Offset. How hard is it to juggle managing both of them in the situations now, which isn't so sweet, and just being involved in a couple's or breaking up couple's relationship?
Well, for me, I don't take sides.
Right, and when you're both a celebrity,
And they're both
it's
celebrities,
not one that's a
It's
celebrity and one
not
that
easy,
isn't.
no. Yeah.
It's a lot different. Cardi album, 6 years for her to come out with one. There are doubters, and then there are the diehard, Barty gang. How much does that affect you guys without a momentum for the 6 years it's going to come? It's not going to come, I mean, we did a cover 2 years ago of her coming out with an album that didn't happen, as XXL, but how do you start and restart and keep the momentum going? How do you put out a single, plan that for the project, all of a sudden the project doesn't come?
Well, that's a good question, because she's dropped singles that didn't work, but then she dropped singles like Up and WAP that didn't work. But what the good thing about Cardi was, when she doesn't have a single of hers that work, she does features like Glorilla. Tomorrow was a big one. The feature with Lotto, those were good moments for her, and that kept her hot in the marketplace. So Cardi has a gift of she knows which singles, what remixes to get on. She get hit with remixes all the time, but she doesn't do every remix that come her way.
How did you guys land together? She's Atlantic. You didn't mention, how did you connect with her?
I signed her to a publishing deal at Sony TV. So when she was with her former management, she was with Shaft, and he bought her. He was shopping a pub deal, and I did her deal at Sony TV. So I've worked with her on records before. Like I put her on that first Maroon 5 song, Girls Like You, and that was like her first diamond record, and put her in the pop.
I like that video.
And so I've known her since.
Got you.
the first album.
So are you a record exec? Are you a manager? What do you consider yourself?
He's got a dual role.
Yeah, but when he looks at it and thinks of somebody who said, fill in
At
this
heart-
line, what goes down first?
At heart, a record exec. At heart, a record exec. But a good A&R executive, you're almost like a manager, because you're dealing with the artists on the day-to-day stuff. So, and if you're a hands-on A&R, you're basically almost like a manager, because if you get the artist trust, that's management. If they trust you with decisions with their career, then you can manage. And that's how I look at it.
How do you balance between such big, high-profile artists and clients?
And having a family and
add to it, and having a family, absolutely.
You just, you wake up and I deal with storms every day. So, you just got to deal with the cards you dealt with. And, I try to do a good time. Like, my mornings, I try to deal with emails, get some of those out the way, early calls out the way, go to the gym in the morning, go to the steam room. After the steam room, you're ready for the day.
That's right.
But that steam room is kind of like the meditation part,
I hear that from a few people, the steam and the sauna, and you do your thing in there, and then you're ready for the day. It starts early, one or the other,
Then you're ready for the storm to start.
Then you're ready for the smoke.
Yeah.
What's your take on the industry right now? You've been through a lot of seeing different hip-hop and R&B artists, but, there's a lot of question of how we make stars. Do we have as many stars as we could? How much did COVID affect things and technology? But what do you think the overall state of hip-hop is?
Well, the one thing that I'm nervous about was there wasn't a lot of executives that groomed the next generation of executives. Like, there's a lot. I mean, I hate to admit it, there's a lot of black-on-black crime, and no one wants to see someone else, like, mentor and do stuff like that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to start that organization, BMAC, because we want to, give back to the music industry and the industry as a whole, to start giving jobs and opportunities to people of color that may not get opportunities, or even if it's not working at a label, because the labels don't have jobs as much every day, but there's jobs in the live space and touring in agencies. So that's kind of like one of the spirits behind BMAC.
That's interesting because we haven't heard a lot about that, of the problem of giving to the next generation,
Yeah.
you know, and how that plays a role in people holding on to titles or maybe not grooming people to pass on the knowledge,
Yeah.
and how that can slow the growth of an industry down.
100%. And we also just heard he named all these big giants that gave him opportunities.
Right, good point,
beforehand,
right, and
you
sat
know?
down for dinners and such on, right, yeah.
100%, you know, and that puts you on a trajectory for success, you know, so it's definitely the opportunity, I mean, definitely the duty to pay that forward, you know.
What are some of the moments you can't believe you were there to be a part of, you know, like in a bragging state, you know, that you were here for this recording or this live or this whatever it is or this moment that, you know, you look back and are excited that you have that in your history?
Blurred Lines, I would say. That was like, so at the time, Jordan Felton and I was managing Robin Thicke, and I had just signed T.I. to Columbia, and we were looking for a feature for Blurred Lines. I first sent it to, Robin wanted Kendrick on it. Top Dog said, that's no. That's not a hit. And then T.I., luckily he ended up doing it, who didn't love the song at the time, but he ended up doing it. We played it for Interscope. They told us it's not a hit. And radio was like, people don't want to hear Robin like this. They want to Urban AC Records. Jordan got a performance at The Voice, and that's, you know, as soon as they performed that song, the next day it went #1 on iTunes.
Wow.
And to see Blurred Lines be a #1 record around the world, a record that we almost threw away.
Wow.
We was going to put out, yeah.
People will always tell you, you know.
Yep.
I love those little stories behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And this person was supposed to be on that. Or this was going to have this is the cutting room floor,
I mean,
you know?
obviously we weren't, you know, there at the beginning of the process. We just know the end, but had no idea Kendrick was, you know.
That's how Kendrick ended up getting on Robin Thicke's second single. He's like, all right, maybe miss this one, let's get the next one.
Do you see a different level of narcissism in artists now than in the past? Do you ever see, or do you see an artist cross the line when they're this and all of a sudden they've become that and they're feeling themselves too much, and like anything in kind of that space where they go from normal and down to earth to, all right, we lost them?
I haven't personally worked with that many artists that I feel like I've lost them. They mostly, like, even when they're difficult, you can get them to turn around and be like, all right, you could be level-headed. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure there's other cases, but I personally don't.
So you have a dual role as music executive, A&R, also management. How close are you in the music creation process with your artists that you manage? Do you kind of give them the leeway to be creative, or do you suggest, you know, concepts? Do you suggest direction? How involved are you in that process?
Depends on the artist. Like Cardi, definitely hands-on. Daniel Caesar. Offset, pretty much, he knows, like, he has a relationship with everybody. So the producers, like, he doesn't need me to call Metro Boomin or Southside. You know, he kind of knows, you know, what he wants, you know. My job is just to help get the clearance done. But creatively, mostly like with studio, the writers, producers, I'm hands-on with them about that.
Sure.
To me.
Who are you excited about, newer artists in the space besides Cash? You know, what do you think about the landscape right now?
I like this artist, Rule, that we just signed from Australia. He used to be on RCA, but Nate just signed them to Giant. Tubby, I'm excited about his project that's coming out. We did a partnership with Little Baby, and he's coming out in October. So I'm excited about him. Outside of Cash, I mean, he has the Slizzy ENT. One thing about Cash is, like, he's also gonna be like a good A&R source for us, because everybody wants to work with him. And I just saw, like, it was his show last night. He brought out, like, these upcoming artists that are coming. Like, he's giving them a sound, you know. So I'm curious, excited to see where that goes, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what the new artists do, because it feels like they have a lot of power to even put people on early, you know, and give them opportunities early, and have kind of a momentum themselves and share it with people, which you see. You ever see that they feel like there's missed moments that an artist has, and you sit down and you talk to them about what they could have done and guide them, and they're receptive, or not as much anymore?
Another good question. I mean, I also work with Solange, and I used to feel like Solange there was a point where she could have just owned the moment, but then she went away. And sometimes you go away too long, it could hurt your career, you know? So being consistent, putting out music a lot and not go away could either help or hurt a career, you know?
So it makes you go back with Cardi's been around, but it's been 6 years for an album. How detrimental has that, do you think that 6 years could be to people with you're almost talking like a generation of new fans, you know, and so how detrimental is a 6 year break? I mean, I guess will remain to be seen until it comes out, but what are your concerns?
She just got to put it out. You know, she can't keep overthinking it because I'm nervous that the fans are going to say, we're not waiting anymore. Enough's enough, you know. And they'll like, because she's going to let someone else take her fans. Like Sexy Red is right there. Could take those, that's Cardi's core audience. If you look at Sexy Fans, her shows, those are all Cardi fans, you know. But I don't think she came up with that one record yet that become a household name. You know, Cardi still has major hits under her belt. So.
100%.
And the personality, the charm, the social, the inviting you, even though she's going through whatever she is with Offset, she's inviting you in to see part of it too, which humanizes her,
and she also
you know?
touches a lot of things outside of music that can also, you know, that are keeping fans engaged, you know, whether it's fashion, whether it's the family.
Whip shots.
You know, you feel like you're inside of her life, you know, so.
I am inside of Cardi B's life.
To a certain extent, we all are.
We are all in Cardi's world. It's true. It's true.
There's no filter with her. Like
No.
she's from the Bronx. She's tough. Like she doesn't shy away from anyone. Like you know, she knows who her friends are. She knows who her enemies are, and she's good with that. You know.
You have any starstruck moments where you couldn't believe that you were there for, met them?
What would it be? I was starstruck.
Probably not. His first placement was Dangerously in Love.
I'm trying.
That's the holy grail to start with.
Yeah, but then I met Obama, you know, like who knows something.
Nah, I never met Obama yet, but I would want to. Never been invited to the White House yet. Hopefully this year, if Kamala wins, we can get there.
She'll embrace it, right?
Yeah.
She likes hip hop. Yeah. So what's next besides Cardi Project Cash? What you got coming down? What's 2025 look like?
I really want to expand the Giant roster and really to feel like we're competing. Giant is competing with like the major labels. Like we really want to give Interscope, Atlantic a run and show them like we can compete with the majors. That's what I really want Giant to build up to be. You know? So,
I mean, it's such a wide open landscape and such a change of everything right now. It really is about who just kind of takes it to the top next. We're recreating a whole new kind of reign, right?
Yeah.
You know, with you correct me if I'm wrong, but with the change in Atlantic, with the change with Def Jam, with the change with the merging of everything, it's, you know, not from ground zero, but you've got an opportunity to see all sorts of labels become leaders that might not have had the same opportunity a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like how QC was able to sell that company and still do it. Like Todd, I'm a fan of what he's done with Alamo, building and sell it. So if Giant could just do 1% of that business, I will be in good shape. You know.
Anything you guys at Giant specifically keying on, whether it's artist development or something that you think that you guys do very well, or something that's different from all of the others that are in your space?
We definitely want to be. Our message is to be we're more artist friendly. Our deals will show that we're very artist friendly. We're pro artists.
Okay.
What does that mean? You guys don't have to make as much money?
No, as far as like in the artist deals, like we offer health care.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
that's that. I don't remember hearing.
I heard that.
And almost like a retirement plan in the deal. So we don't want to.
It's almost like a regular job.
You don't want like. I hate to see those when you watch those shows on VH1. Where are they at now? And you see all these legacy artists that are broke or looking for money.
Yeah.
I would hate to see an artist on Giant that would feel like they ever gonna go through that. So that was one of the reasons why we started Giant to. Well, how can we make sure we give back, to the artists?
That's dope.
So do you sign a deal with you guys and you get health insurance?
Yes.
Basically.
I mean, I know.
I've never heard of that.
Is that a trend in it, or are you guys the first to do that? Let's brag about this for a minute. I've never heard that, but I could be late
I don't
on
know
it.
any other label, so I would hope to say that we were one of the first to do
Very
it.
cool
But
for you guys.
That is good.
I'm
Yeah.
not privy to how every label does their deals, but that was something that we felt
Never
was
heard
important.
of that.
You know, I've never heard of it either. And you've heard over the years a lot of people fight for that particular
Yeah.
issue of how health insurance, mental health, all of that
Or-
isn't protected. Yeah.
Or towards the latter part of their career, or after it's kind of all said and done, and they get old, and they can't afford to have a funeral, or can't afford these types of things.
So do you have a 401k built into your deal with you guys? What is
You
it?
trying to get signed?
He said there's a retirement. I'm wondering what that means. Yeah. No, that's interesting because that is showing care for the artists in a different way, or bringing them over. And I mean, that would impress me if I was an
You're looking
artist
at
and I
them
came
as-
over and there was
as human beings.
Yeah.
Right, and not like a checkbook. Like
Correct.
how a lot of these artists on major, they feel like they were just a check. You know, if they, I guess I don't know naming names, but there's artists that want to leave their label because they feel like they just don't get the attention, they don't get the support, and it's sad because like what, it's not the artist's fault. Like they signed the deal, they expect the label to be hands on in their career. But once they sign them, the song works. If it doesn't work, then they just want to kick you to the shelf, which is not fair.
Anything else you want to add?
I'm glad we did this. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me. This is dope.
Thank you definitely for coming through. I
Absolutely.
mean, it's always interesting to hear people's backgrounds, how they got into what they did. That publishing drives you.
And
into
this is
a big
the
part
first
of it.
one I've ever done. So this was like, I didn't know
See, we
what
were
I was
gentle.
going to do.
100%.
Yeah.
And it don't take you.
I know some of these podcasts, they do stuff just to find like gotcha moments, right? To get stuff that
Nah.
No, but if
And
you
this
go
is
on
me.
another one and you give them all those gotcha moments and we don't get all that, and all of a sudden you do mention those names, we will call you. No. The purpose is not a gotcha moment.
No.
Definitely in other aspects of media, I think definitely that exists. But with you guys, I think the point is to, pay homage, to talk about where you guys have come from
That's
anybody
right.
who's interested in hearing it. I think even the name drops, if you've shouted out many people that you've worked with or have given you opportunities or you've hired, and I think those even moments are cool to acknowledge people in these podcasts, and give people their respect due from the people that they work with is kind of the point of all of it, and I think we're hearing the most back from other people in the industry or are appreciating it,
Yeah. And it's also
or who want to be on it.
and an opportunity and a platform to inspire others that want to become managers, that want to become music executives, to kind of see the steps that you took to become successful as you are today, and how they can relate that to their journey and their path.
And the people who are behind certain records or
Yeah.
involved in that, and
Yep.
and what it was like. Yeah.
Like we wouldn't be doing this job if it wasn't for the artists. So like I tell anybody I work with, like we do this. The artists come first.
Yeah.
Always remember that the artists come 1st. And I'm proud of the executive. Like Tenure used to be my assistant, right? So to see him be a CEO, I'm proud of that. Barrel Line, I gave her first shot as the A&R, and I look, she's doing her thing. So I'm happy about that. Busy, gave him a job, and he's he's gonna be an entrepreneur.
100%.
So I'm proud of
So
that.
hopefully they'll look out for you when you need it.
Absolutely.
No, but that's the example right there. You're living the example. You had people who laid the groundwork for you, and you're paying it forward. So that's to me, that's what it's about. So you are one of the ones that's setting the example for the next generation, or giving them opportunities and giving them platforms, and you see it right now. So
New artists go to Giant Records because you can get health insurance. No, because you see how much Tubby has put into his artists and worked with them and respects them. He's telling you he respects you. So check out Giant Records, and we won't put any pressure about Cardi, but we'll hit you and see what's going on. And we appreciate you coming through.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank
No
you.
doubt.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Inside Track. See you on the next one.
next one.